Hi everyone, it's the Dragon Critic aka Leo O'Brien, and today is my 21st birthday. Yes, I am now 21 years old. Holy crap, I genuinely cannot believe that I am now 21 years old. 21 is a very big age and I'm very happy to be now at that age. I genuinely still can't believe it and I still can't get over the fact that I am now 21 years old. Holy shit. Usually on my channel I would usually do a Q&A for my birthday, and I will do a Q&A very soon hopefully, but today I decided that because it's my 21st birthday and because of my channel turning 10 years old soon, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a ranking video. Today I am going to do a ranking of the DreamWorks movies. The movie studio DreamWorks has a very special place in my heart. For the most part. I grew up with a lot of their movies, and a lot of their movies I have a lot of nostalgia for. Some are definitely better than others, and some are definitely not as good as I remember. This ranking though, however, is definitely coming from a personal bias perspective. Because if this was a non-biased perspective, movies like Shark Tale and Turbo would be lower on the list, and movies like The Prince of Egypt and the first Shrek would be higher. Before I begin this ranking though, I did include Orion in the Dark, as I believe it was created by the movie crew at DreamWorks. But I won't be including Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, as it's a pilot movie for the Megamind Rules TV show, but if you want to know what I think about the pilot film, it's pretty bad, it's shit, it sucks, 4 out of 10. So without further ado, let's begin the ranking. Number 48, The Boss Baby. Oh boy. Oh my god, this one was a hard one to sit through again. My god. In all honesty, The Boss Baby for me is the worst movie of all time. Now yes, I do believe objectively from a non-biased perspective there are movies out there that are much worse, but from a biased personal perspective for me, I genuinely despise this movie. My goodness, the storyline, absolute pure and utter crap. There is zero thought and effort put into the script, and the direction is just shockingly bad. And the breakup plot twist with Tim and the baby is possibly the most predictable plot twist in fiction for me. It's just so dumb with how it goes. The film's sense of humour is painfully unfunny and very, very juvenile, and the characters, they're not much better. Tim and the baby, I believe, are just awful characters, and they have a very, very poorly written dynamic. The parents are bland, and the villain is just awful. He's just so cringy with his personality, and even the music is just crap. I suppose, though, I may have to point out some merit. I mean, okay, the animation, it's not too bad, despite me not being too keen on the character designs. I feel they just look overly cartoony, and I suppose Alec Baldwin and the rest of the cast are at least trying their best with the voice acting. I still can't believe Tobey Maguire does the narration of the film, but even with the very, and I mean very little merit, I despise this film. I genuinely cannot stand it, and I am more than happy to call The Boss Baby not only the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, although I am willing to come across a movie that is probably 10 times worse, but also the worst DreamWorks movie of all time. 1 out of 10. Number 47, Shrek the Third. In all honesty, I like to think a lot of people, including myself, have done a very good job pretending that this one doesn't exist. Because whenever I talk about the other Shrek movies and the Puss in Boots movies, I never acknowledge it. This film is a disgrace to the Shrek name and is easily the worst. The storyline is horrible. Nothing happens and it lacks all the heart, charm, wit and smarts of the Shrek saga. Everything that made Shrek a great saga to begin with is just gone in this film. While granted it did make sense for Prince Charming to be the main villain and want revenge for his mother's death, and while he could have been a very entertaining villain, the execution is just terrible, and Charming is so bad in this film. His dynamic with the other characters is very weak, and even Shrek and the gang are just not the same characters in this film that they were before. The aspects that made them special characters are just not in this film. Well, I mean, okay, thankfully Donkey is still funny in a few scenes, and Puss does have one funny joke.
Allow me to explain. You see, when a man has a certain feelings for a woman, a powerful urge sweeps over him.
I know how it happened.
But the body swap is extremely unhinged and not in a good way. And while some jokes with Donkey are funny, for the most part, the jokes are very forced and very poorly timed, especially in the beginning. The new characters such as Artie are just very annoying and very poorly written, and Merlin is just so unfunny. The animation doesn't even impress me. It just looks so dull, especially with the lighting. It just lacks that Shrek magic, if you get me. But that could be just me personally. The music ain't even that good either. It really is just a cash grab, and I honestly just have some hope that Shrek 5 does turn out to be a surprise. But for me, Shrek the Third is absolutely atrocious. A massive step down after Shrek 2, and easily the worst sequel that DreamWorks have ever done. It just shocks me with how good the other movies are, and even how good the shorts are, and then how bad that this film is. My god. No wonder I never acknowledge it when I talk about the franchise. Just an absolutely terrible film. 1 out of 10. Number 46. The Croods 2, A New Age. I bet you didn't think this one was going to be this low on the list now, did you? When I first saw The Croods 2, I thought it was just very poorly and very mediocre. But then when I watched both the Croods movies again, this film just got so much worse. The storyline is awful. The situations that happen with the characters are just so cringy to watch. And the way they all bicker with one another, it's just awful. And the dialogue is so poor in my book. The dynamic with the Croods and the Bettermans does have potential, and I actually do think it would work as a nice continuation of the first film, but the execution is a letdown. The execution stinks, and the characters are not much better. I feel they're just so dumb in this film, and I find Grug to be so over the top in a very annoying way, and Mrs. Betterman is a bitch. My god, she is so unlikable. The romance with Eep and Guy is so cringy too. And while the animation on the backgrounds and the locations is nice, the biggest problem with the animation for me is that it's so different from the first movie to the point where it's just jarring, especially when it comes to the character design. I mean, Grug and Douglas especially look so different from the first one. Douglas's design isn't even the same for no reason whatsoever, but admittedly, it was pretty creative in the beginning to recreate the scene from number 1 where Eep met Guy for the first time in this movie's art style. That I do have to admit is pretty creative. There are some things that I do like. I liked Dawn, I actually liked her friendship with Eep, and I did like Mr. Betterman. At times he was a little bit annoying, but for the most part, he was actually kind of funny. The music is good enough, and credit where credit is due. The voice acting is still good, but for someone that honestly ain't even a massive fan of the first film, this one for me is just terrible, and honestly one of the worst sequels from the studio. While not quite as bad as Shrek the Third, it's not far off. 3 out of 10. Number 45. The Boss Baby 2, Family Business. Ugh, while nowhere near as bad as number 1, this one is still very bad. The storyline is just ridiculously childish, the direction is awful, and the characters again are just crap. Tim and the baby are just really poorly written, and the dynamic with them offers absolutely nothing, and they just go through the same back and forth from the first movie. The baby Tina is really annoying, and the villain is just terrible. While the animation is fine and the music is kinda better than the music from the first movie, there's not a whole lot for me to say about this one, but it's still a pretty bad movie. And while definitely nowhere near as bad as the first movie, it still sucks. 4 out of 10. Number 44. Trolls.
Crap, mega crap.
Yeah, J. Jonah Jameson says it best. Trolls just has a very crappy storyline with very bad execution and direction. It has such a very over-the-top and kiddie feeling to it, where I feel it's just obnoxious, and the characters are very poor too. I really don't like the characters of Branch and Poppy, and I feel like they tried way too hard to make them the new Shrek and Donkey, except they have nowhere near the charm and specialty of those guys, and the scene where Branch talks about why he doesn't like singing is just ridiculous.
Why not? Why won't you sing?
Because singing killed my grandma, okay?
I mean, seriously? That dialogue sounds like it was written by a child. The animation is nice, there is some lovely colours, and the music isn't too bad, but it's just the story and the characters that makes it crap for me. And it's definitely one of DreamWorks' worst. But hey ho, the Troll Saga did get better as it went along, so there's that I suppose. Yippee! 4 out of 10. Number 43. Trolls 2 World Tour. Is it better than number 1? Yes, it is. but not by much. Trolls 2 just has a very bland and dull storyline. The quest is not that interesting. The concept of Barb is kinda cool, but the execution just feels uninspired to me, and it's just not a very interesting film. Poppy and Branch, along with the other characters, I don't care for at all in this film. I feel they're just incredibly bland, and nothing about them stands out to me. And while Barb herself, I feel, could be pretty cool, she's just very weak with how she's written, and not really all that memorable. But hey ho, the animation is at the very least nice to look at, and some of the music isn't too bad. It is creative to introduce different types of music to this world, but for me, it's a very dull film and just not that good. Better than the first one, but still mid. 5 out of 10. Number 42, Spirit Untamed. A lot of people consider this to be a real sequel to the first movie, but I absolutely do not. Spirit Untamed is not a bad film, but the storyline is just very bland, poorly written, and very boring in areas. It's very forgettable, and the characters are not very good. Lucky and Spirit are okay, and their dynamic is okay, but I feel like it tries way too hard to capture the heart of the original film, and it just fails. And everyone else is just very poorly written and very forgettable. The one character I do like is Lucky's dad, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He actually is pretty decent, and I do like some of his scenes in the movie, and the soundtrack of the film is good enough, but the animation, my god, it's so cheap looking. It doesn't even look like a DreamWorks movie to me. Not a terrible movie, but there's so many aspects that are just very mediocre. There's just so many things about it where it just creates a very poorly made movie. 5 out of 10. Number 41, Trolls 3 Band Together. You know, I still remember at one point when me and Tig were rewatching Puss in Boots 2, and I asked him this. Tig, what do you think the chances are of Trolls 3 Band Together being as good as Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish? You okay? Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Fuck no. Fuck no. No.
Okay. Trolls 3 is just okay to me. It's the best one in a mediocre franchise. It definitely has some merit going for it though. For one, the animation is actually very nice, and the film's best aspect for me is definitely the music. I'm not gonna lie, but the music in the film is actually quite decent, and I actually think it's quite catchy. But the storyline is just really not that interesting. It's just a very bland movie, and the characters, they're not great either. The dynamic with Poppy and Branch is just okay. The dynamic with their long-lost brother and sister, it's just okay. And the other guys are just meh. But the villains, Velvet and Veneer, oh boy, they just sucked. It's definitely the best of the three for me, but I still don't really like it. But I would say it's the most watchable of the bunch for me, and it does actually give me some bit of glimmer of hope that maybe Trolls 4 could at least be decent. But even then, I wouldn't be in a rush to see it, and I'm not having my hopes too high. Not bad, has some enjoyable aspects, but not very good. 6 out of 10. Number 40, Kung Fu Panda 4. This one, in all honesty, really does break my heart from a biased perspective as a long-time fan, but Kung Fu Panda 4 really is just such a disappointment. It does have some merit with the animation being absolutely amazing, some great action, an excellent climax, some very funny jokes, and I do like the character of Zhen despite her awful plot twist. But other than that, this film really is a big disappointment. The storyline is so rushed, it's ridiculously predictable. The execution of the twist with Zhen betraying Po for the chameleon is so forced, and it's just so damn obvious with how it goes. And the movie is so hollow. The Furious Five's absence really does hurt the movie, but it's Tigress's absence especially that damages it very badly due to how crucial of a character she is to the narrative of the franchise. She's just as important as Po, and the fact that she's just gone really does badly damage the movie. The chameleon is such a disappointment of a villain, and her backstory is just absolutely terrible, and the return of the villains, even though it's really only Tai Lung that actually comes back, is done so poorly. And honestly, the movie really is just going to get worse and worse and worse as the years and time goes on. An enjoyable movie on its own, but as a Kung Fu Panda sequel, it really is a disappointment. 6 out of 10. Number 39, Dogman. So this one only came out only recently, and it's fine. Dogman does have some funny moments to it, and it does have some entertainment value. Petey and Little Petey have a nice heartfelt moment towards the end of the movie, but other than that, it's just not very interesting. The storyline is bland, the characters are not all that interesting, the animation is pretty good, and the same does go to the music, but it's just not all that great. I feel it's a good kids movie, as I think kids would enjoy it more, but other than that, as a film itself, it's just okay. But there is at least some qualities to it. 6 out of 10. Number 38, Monsters vs. Aliens. As a kid, I liked it, but now it's just it's alright. The storyline just doesn't really do anything. It's not awful, but it just doesn't really offer anything unique, and the direction and the plot are just so simple and so basic. The monsters are fun characters. Bob is hilarious, but Susan is not really all that interesting. She just feels very underdeveloped, and I feel like her arc could have been more impactful. I appreciate them trying to give her emotional depth with her feeling betrayed by society, but they should have developed that aspect more. And my God, Derek is such a dick. But hey ho, he did get his comeuppance, and it was pretty funny.
Goodbye, Derek.
Derek, you are a selfish jerk, and guess what? I've met someone else.
General Monger and the President are fun characters, but the other humans are just quite forgettable. And while the villain is quite funny, he has very little impact on the story, and he should have had more screen time. There's some fun action, and the animation is nice enough, but the facial expressions for the humans can look very, very weird at times. It does have some entertainment value to it, but I feel like it's a movie that just exists. It can be fun, but there's just nothing really to it. 6 out of 10. Number 37, Captain Underpants. Much like Dogman, I feel Captain Underpants is a fun kids movie. I feel it captures the fun of being a kid, especially with the friendship of George and Harold, with the tricks they get up to in school. I think that captures the spirit of two kids trying to annoy a school teacher, and they're pretty good characters too, with pretty good voice performances as well. Mr. Krupp is fun too. He's quite funny, but is it just me, or does the actual Captain Underpants character have very little screen time? Yeah, he's in the movie a lot, but to me, it feels like he could have a little bit more. The villain is a little bit overly goofy at times, but he is entertaining enough. I think after the beginning of the movie can go a little overboard with being very slapstick, and while a lot of it can be funny, some of it can fall flat, and it kind of makes the movie feel a little bit too kiddie, I feel. It's weird to say, but I feel the kiddie tone is a bit of a mixed bag for this film. On one hand, it actually does work and benefits the movie with its sense of humour, but on the other hand, it can go a little bit overboard, which can make the pacing feel a little bit weird at times to me. I don't know how to say it, but at times the movie just felt a little bit repetitive, and then at times it felt like it was going by so fast, especially with the third act, which while entertaining, it just went by a little bit too quick, I feel. But I do have to admit, it is an entertaining movie. It definitely captures the fun of the books very well, I'd say, and while I would say it is more for kids, it still has its funny moments here and there that do make it worthwhile. There's enough charm in it that makes it entertaining. 7 out of 10. Number 36, The Croods. The Croods is a good movie. The storyline is good enough, but I just don't find it to be all that interesting. I feel the quest can really drag, and some of the movie can be a little bit boring. This may sound controversial, but I feel Grug is just a very over-the-top protagonist, and I can just never get invested with his character arc. The others are decent, but I think the best character of the movie for me would have to be Ryan Reynolds' Guy. I think he's actually really cool, and Belt is quite funny too. Eep is decent too. I feel her relationship with Grug does start off very cliche, but I do like how it's resolved later on. Same with the dynamic with Grug and Guy. I'll be honest, I don't really find the back and forth with them in the movie to be all that interesting, but I do like the conversation they have later on in the film, and I do like the film's bookended narration by Eep. There is some fun action, some very beautiful locations, music is pretty good, the visuals of the movie do look very nice, and it does have its heart in the right place. It's a good movie, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it. It has its enjoyable elements, it's just not a film that I'm crazy about.
7 out of 10. Number 35, Home. When Home first came out back in 2015, I loved it, and it was the first film that I ever got on Blu-ray back in July 2015. But 10 years later, holy crap, I can't believe it's been 10 years since it came out, I think it's just decent. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some people say it is, but I don't think it's a great movie either. The storyline is decent, but it's full of cliches that have ridiculous execution. A lot of the jokes really do fall flat, and the arguing with Tip and O is very generic. But the movie, I think, does have its heart in the right place, especially with the third act, despite the arguing being very generic. I think Tip and O are decent characters that do share decent chemistry with one another, and Pig the Cat is hands down the best character in the movie. And while at times I did find the character of Captain Speck to be quite funny, there were definitely times where he was very annoying. But the animation of the film is very nice, it has some very nice colours to look at, and the film does have some pretty good music. It's not one of the best, but I think there is enough merit to make it at least worth giving a chance. 7 out of 10. Number 34, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Ruby Gillman on rewatch is good enough. The storyline is very cliche though. Yeah, the movie's direction is pretty simple and the execution of the plot doesn't really help with the cliches and the predictability. Ruby is a likeable protagonist, and while I enjoy her dynamic with Chelsea, Chelsea herself is not all that great of a villain and could have been much better. The other characters are barely developed, apart from, I suppose you could say, Ruby's mother and her grandmother, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. I do think the movie has some decent world building. The underwater visuals do look very nice, and the music of the film isn't that bad either. Plus the climax of the movie is quite enjoyable. There is some things to appreciate that do make it decent for me, and while it is a shame with how it turned out in the box office, the film itself could definitely be so much better. 7 out of 10. Number 33, Orion and the Dark. This one was actually a nice one to rewatch because I haven't seen it since it came out. While the plot is quite cliche, the film itself is quite entertaining and there is some very nice heart to it. The animation is very nice, and similar to The Bad Guys, the art style reminds me of old school DreamWorks. The music and the characters are pretty good as well. The relationship with Orion and Dark is actually pretty good, and the two of them really do bring in the film's heart. And the film's direction is actually quite creative at times. It's not a film I would necessarily call great, but I could definitely see it getting better as time goes along. But for now, as it stands, Orion and the Dark is quite enjoyable. 7 out of 10. Number 32. The Penguins of Madagascar movie. The Penguins of Madagascar film I do think is pretty good, but I feel what makes it inferior to the trilogy for me is that it lacks the smarts of the Madagascar trilogy. I just don't think the plot has that same clever feel to it. It's a fun movie, but I just don't think it's as interesting or even as entertaining as the Madagascar trilogy. And it's weird to say because as a kid when it came out, I used to think it was better than the trilogy. And while the characters are still good, the penguins are great, the North Wind are pretty cool characters, and Dave is an entertaining villain. But I don't know, there's just something about this one that I can never put my finger on as to why I feel it lacks the cleverness of the Madagascar trilogy. And I just don't know why I don't like it as much as I did. The movie's animation is great, the action is great, and the music is very good. It's a good movie, I just don't like it anywhere near as much as I used to. 7 out of 10. Number 31, Shark Tale. Okay, this is where my nostalgia bias definitely kicks in, and it will be the same for the next two movies on the list, which are films that are not so beloved. But for me personally, from a biased perspective, I actually really do like Shark Tale. As a kid, I absolutely loved it, and I used to even have it in my top 10 favourite movies list, and while it's definitely not perfection, I just think it can be a very entertaining movie. There is definitely problems like with how Oscar is written as a character, but I actually really like Lenny, and I even like Angie. Hell, I actually enjoy the character of Don Lino, and I just find him to be very entertaining. I genuinely always get a laugh out of Sykes and the jellyfish. I even like Lola, but that's definitely from a biased perspective, because she is played by the same voice actress as Tigress. The animation is okay, it is quite dated, but I think the film's music is actually really good. This is definitely coming though from a personal bias perspective, but I just find the movie to be very funny, very fun, and very entertaining. It's definitely far from DreamWorks' best, but honestly, I've seen a lot of movies that are so much worse than Shark Tale. There is a lot of really dumb aspects about the film though, such as Oscar using the money that he owed Mr. Sykes on a bet, but I dare say that the film actually does have a nice little message about how you don't have to live at the top to be a somebody. It could be better, but I think for what it is it's not a bad moral. Definitely flawed, but very entertaining for me personally. This is a rating from a biased perspective, but it's an 8 out of 10 from me. Number 30, B-movie.
You like jazz?
B-movie is another one I loved as a kid, and while much like Shark Tale, definitely not perfect and far from the company's best, I think it's a fun movie. The storyline is pretty good. I think there is a good message of how bees are good for plants, even if the way it's told is a little bit bizarre. The relationship with Barry and Vanessa, oh my god, even saying it just sounds so wrong, I think is decent. They actually bounce off each other quite well, and I even like the character of Barry's friend, Adam. But Patrick Warburton is objectively the best character in the movie. He has so much character growth, depth with his god tier character development.
Oh, that bee is living my life!
Let it go, Kenny.
When will this nightmare end?
Nah, I'm just kidding. He's kinda dumb, but he does make me laugh. Not to mention, we got Vincent from Over the Hedge having a cameo. That's god tier! It's definitely not one of the best from the company, but it does offer an entertaining plot that may be a little bit bizarre, nice visuals, fun characters, and very good music. It's not a masterpiece, but from a nostalgia bias perspective, it can be quite fun, and to be honest, some of the dialogue is hilarious.
He's just a little bee, and he happens to be the nicest bee I've met in a long time.
Long time? What are you talking about? Are there other bugs in your life?
8 out of 10. Number 29, Turbo. Alright, I will admit, I might be blinded by nostalgia for this one as I absolutely adored it as a kid when it came out back in 2013. And there is a lot of people that strongly dislike Turbo, and I can see why. But from a personal bias perspective, I have to say, I actually still really like it. I think the film does have solid direction and a solid storyline, and I personally enjoy seeing how DreamWorks wanted to do their own version of Pixar's Cars. And I actually would go as far to say that the film does have a nice moral about believing in yourself, even if it's been done in lots of other movies and done much better. But I think Theo is a decent protagonist, and I do enjoy his character arc of becoming a racer. Not to mention, I dare say Ryan Reynolds gives an excellent voice performance. And I like some of the other characters. I also enjoy the friendship of Theo and Tito, and Tito is actually quite a fun character in my book. I like the scene with Jet towards the end of the movie, but for the rest of the film, he's very cliche, and Guy Gagné is not a very memorable or interesting antagonist. The pacing can be a little bit bumpy, it can really drag out at times, some cliches are not very well executed, which does lead to some scenes, especially in the climax, being extremely predictable. But I think it's a fun and entertaining movie, and the animation for me personally is eye candy. I've always adored the character designs and the bright and vibrant colours. The film's score is also pretty catchy too. Overall, definitely flawed, and nostalgia does definitely play a big part in my enjoyment, but I do think Turbo is a fun movie. I definitely believe from a non-biased perspective that Shark Tale, B-Movie and Turbo are probably not very good movies, but from a biased perspective, I just find them to be very fun and very entertaining movies despite their flaws. 8 out of 10. Number 28, Ants, the movie that started the company of DreamWorks. Ants is fun, the storyline is quite entertaining, the dialogue is hilarious.
This stuff tastes like crap.
Let me try some. Hey, it is crap. Not bad.
The animation is definitely dated, but good enough for the time, and the voice acting is really good. Z and Princess Bala are solid characters and do share good chemistry, even if their relationship can be quite generic at times. The music of the film is very good, though the other characters are not all that interesting to me. The villain, I think, could have used a little bit more screen time. He was serviceable, but I feel he could be a bit better. There is parts in the story, especially in the middle, that can be a little bit clunky and did feel a little bit fillery. But despite its flaws, it's a very entertaining movie, and it's really crazy to think how far the studio has come since its debut in 1998 for the most part. 8 out of 10. Number 27, Mr. Peabody and Sherman. I've always thought Mr. Peabody and Sherman to be a very entertaining movie. The storyline is fun, the relationship with Mr. Peabody and Sherman is very charming and is the heart of the movie. The comedy and the dialogue can be really funny.
Sherman, I've got to get you out of here before you touch yourself!
And the film itself is just tons of fun. The voice acting is really good, the animation is very nice, and the music's pretty good too. The dynamic with Sherman and Penny though, not all that interesting. It's very cliche and very forced. I mean, it's nice in the end, but it's just quite generic, and Penny does start off very unlikable. But the best character is hands down Grunion. Oh boy, the most compelling character in history who has so much character depth and development, and the way her story arc is wrapped up is just god tier.
Come here, soldier.
Oh shit, Patrick Warburton's in this movie. Never mind, he's the best character in it. 8 out of 10. Number 26, The Road to El Dorado. Okay, this might be controversial as I believe Road to El Dorado is the weakest 2D DreamWorks movie. But even with that said, I still think it's really, really good. The storyline is very entertaining, the animation is very creative, the music is very iconic, and the characters are great. Miguel and Tulio have such great banter with one another, and Chell is definitely the best character in the movie. I mean, in all honesty, she's hilarious. The villain, though, I feel could use a little bit more development, and I'm not the biggest fan of the fallout with Miguel and Tulio in the third act. I get it and all, but it's just very cliche with how it's executed, and even the direction of it is just very predictable. But even so, it's still an absolute classic and a very funny and a very fun movie. 8 out of 10. Number 25, Over the Hedge. This one is definitely nostalgic for a lot of people, and I have to say, I believe it's aged very well. Over the Hedge is a very charming movie with fun characters who have great interactions with one another. Vincent is actually quite threatening at times, and the movie itself is really funny. The Verminator and Glades, though, are not really all that interesting, but they do have their funny moments. The film has very nice visuals, fun music, and it's just overall a very funny movie. It's a really fun movie to watch with friends, I'd say. I mean, there's a lot of memes about it too. 8 out of 10. Now we get into my personal 9 out of 10s and above. This is where I get really excited and happy and positive, although it is definitely where more of my biased thoughts come in, but hey ho, let's continue on with the list. Number 24, Abominable. For me, Abominable is actually really, really good. The storyline can be a lot of fun, but also has some very good heart to it. The relationship of Yi and Everest is very, very nice, and I love seeing their journey. I even like the characters of Peng and Jin, even though Jin is a pretty big pretty boy at first. Mr. Burnish is a very entertaining character, but the twist villains are nothing to write home about. The movie is also gorgeous to look at. The scenery and landscapes are just absolutely stunning. The music of the movie, especially the end credit song Beautiful Life, not gonna lie, absolutely fantastic. The film does have some issues though. Some of the predictability is not really all that well executed, and the comedy can be a bit of a mixed bag. But overall, I've always loved this one. I believe it's a very heartwarming movie, and I enjoy it a lot. I think it's one of DreamWorks' most underrated films, and it's a film that always brings a smile to my face. 9 out of 10. Number 23, Shrek Forever After, The Final Chapter. It blows my mind with how much Shrek Forever After has grown on me. I think a lot of the points that Shea Frillis made in his analysis of the film have definitely become more evident, and the more I watch it, the more and more it grows on me. There is some flaws with the film though, like the pacing can be quite slow at points, and yeah, Shrek is very unlikable in the beginning, and the scene where he snaps at Fiona is genuinely horrible. But other than those flaws, there is a really good story in here that offers Shrek some excellent character development, and there's a lovely moral behind it with how you should never take anything you have for granted until it's gone. Rumpelstiltskin for me is a fantastic antagonist. He can be so manipulative at times, and I'd even go as far to say that he's even above Lord Farquaad from the first film. Not only is the movie tons of fun with a thrilling climax, but there's also so much emotional depth to the film, especially with the ending and the final line of dialogue from Shrek in the film.
I always thought that I rescued you from the Dragon's Keep. It was you that rescued me.
Peak. Absolutely just peak cinema right there. I honestly believe that Forever After is a film that's just going to get better and better as the years go on, and it's actually so close to topping number 1 for me. Excellent film and an amazing end to the Shrek saga. All I can say is, for the next film in 2026, I just hope they somehow surprise us. 9 out of 10. Number 22. Shrek. Shrek is a classic, and it's honestly gotten a lot better for me as I've gotten older. It has such an iconic, fun story, the characters are great, the relationship with Shrek and Donkey is both very charming and really funny, and the romance with Fiona is awesome. Lord Farquaad though, he's a great villain, don't get me wrong, but I wish he had a bit more screen time and a bit more to do. The jokes in the film are absolutely hilarious, the music is very iconic, and the film has a lot of great heart to it. Overall, it's an absolute absolute classic and a very iconic film for the studio of DreamWorks and for the animation industry as a whole. 9 out of 10. Number 21, Madagascar. Now this is definitely coming from a nostalgia bias for me to put the Madagascar trilogy above Shrek and Forever After, but I'm just slightly more attached to the Madagascar films. Madagascar for me is a fun classic. The storyline is fun, the humor is really funny, the animation is solid, and the music is really good. The characters are really good and have great banter with one another. King Julian is fun, and the penguins are hilarious. Fusa though, not really all that memorable, and to be honest, this might be just me, but I don't really feel much would even be affected if they weren't in the movie at all. But even so, Madagascar 1 I think is a classic. Nostalgia definitely plays a big part in the trilogy being quite high on my list, but I think the Madagascar trilogy has a lot of fun and charm to it. And before we move on to the next spot, happy 20th anniversary to Madagascar. 9 out of 10. Number 20, Madagascar 2. Madagascar 2 Escape to Africa is actually even better than the first one for me. The storyline this time has a lot more heart to it, and the relationship with Alex and his dad is very well done in my book. And I really like the world building of Africa. The characters still have great interactions with one another, and it has some of the funniest jokes in DreamWorks' catalogue.
I'd like to kiss you, monkey man.
Alright, but you're so darn ugly.
Though the pacing of the movie can be quite slow, especially in the film's second half, and the villain Makunga definitely feels like he's trying way too hard to be a Lion King villain. But hey, his payoff is quite funny at least. The music is really good, the animation is very nice, and it's another really good movie in the series. 9 out of 10. Number 19, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. The best of the trilogy for me. Although from a non-biased perspective, I'd probably say the first movie, but Madagascar 3 for me is great. The plot is so much fun, the animation is stunning, the colours in this one really do just pop, and the film's music is really good. The characters still have really good chemistry with one another. I really like the circus gang. I really like Gia, and her relationship with Alex and Vitali I feel is a very compelling character. The scene where Alex encourages him to jump through the loop is really good, with excellent voice acting, and the villain Dubois is hilarious. Some of the film's predictability though is a little bit weak with the execution, and some jokes really do fall flat.
Now I can eat apples. Sadly, I discovered I don't like apples.
But overall, it's a really good film, and it works very well as a nice send-off to the Madagascar trilogy. And while I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up getting a Madagascar 4, given how we have a Shrek 5 on the way, I just hope they don't screw it up. 9 out of 10. Number 18, Megamind. What a great movie. A really fun and engaging story with great characters, a great dynamic with Megamind and Minion. Roxanne is such a fun character, and Metro Man is so much fun too. The villain Hal, aka Titan, is actually really good in my book, and I really like his character development. I think it's very well done. The animation is beautiful, and the action is tons and tons of fun. The humour of the film is great, even if some jokes do fall flat, and it's weird to say, but I believe the third act, while quite cliche with where it goes, I honestly think the execution is absolutely brilliant, and it gives the movie more emotional weight, because damn, while the movie is very comedic, it can also be very, and I mean very mature. Honestly, every time I watch Megamind, it always gets better for me. What a great movie, and 2010 has to be one of the best years for DreamWorks. 3 bangers. That's a win right there. 9 out of 10. Number 17, The Bad Guys. From a non-biased perspective, I would probably put this below Megamind, as I will admit Megamind's story is better, but man, I love The Bad Guys. This is another one that just gets better and better for me each time I watch it. The storyline is very entertaining, and it's very old school DreamWorks with the tone, the dialogue, comedy and character designs. The animation is very crisp and very unique. The music is excellent, and the cast of characters are great. Mr. Wolf, Mr. Snake and the rest of the gang are a delight to watch and have great chemistry with one another, but the best character is Diane Foxington. Honestly, I believe she's in the top 3 best female DreamWorks characters. She is absolutely fantastic. Her voice performance by Zazie Beetz, her design, her character arc, her character development, in all honesty, cinema, god tier.
You are a massive simp.
No, I'm not. Get out of
You're
here.
a massive simp. Enough is enough.
Get out of here. Her chemistry with the other characters is really good, and I actually even like Professor Marmalade, and I actually think the plot twist with him worked. At times, the plot twists can be quite predictable, and the jokes can fall flat at times. The Chief of Police is very funny, but the other human characters are so forgettable. I mean, in my personal opinion, it would have made much more sense to have animal characters instead of humans. I just think it would make more interesting world building, but even so, The Bad Guys is a great movie, and all I can say is roll on the sequel, baby, because I am hyped. I can't wait to see these characters again. 9 out of 10. Number 16, Puss in Boots. Well, this is definitely controversial having Puss in Boots 1 at number 16. I will admit though, nostalgia definitely does play a part in this, but from a biased perspective, I've always loved the first Puss in Boots. I think the storyline is really interesting. I love seeing the origin of Puss as a character. I really like his character arc in the film. I love Kitty Softpaws. I think she's amazing, and I think her chemistry with Puss is wonderful, and I actually really like Humpty Dumpty, and I've always been invested in his story and his dynamic with Puss. Jack and Jill though, they're very lackluster villains. There's just absolutely nothing to them, and the pacing at times can be a little bit on and off, but I just have so much about this film that I absolutely love. Even when I rewatch it, it just always brings a smile to my face. And while this would definitely be lower on the list from a non-biased perspective, but from a biased perspective, I love it. 10 out of 10. Number 15, The Prince of Egypt. A lot of people consider this to be the GOAT DreamWorks movie, and I definitely can't blame them. It's not quite the best for me, but damn, it is a masterpiece. Prince of Egypt is an excellent film. The storyline is absolutely fantastic, the animation is beautiful, and the music is brilliant. Moses and Ramses are fantastic characters with an amazing dynamic. They have such great interactions, and you really do see their two different views, and it's peak cinema. Moses' character arc is brilliant. You really do see him grow throughout the film, which makes the climax all the more satisfying. Same goes to Ramses. He's an excellent villain. At times the movie can be a little bit slow, and while from a non-biased perspective this would be higher on the list, but from a biased perspective I still absolutely adore it, and it's an absolutely amazing movie. The Prince of Egypt is an absolute classic. 10 out of 10. Number 14, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Now yes, objectively from a non-biased perspective, this is definitely below The Prince of Egypt, and it's definitely not one of DreamWorks' best. But personally, from a biased perspective, I've always been a big fan of this one. The storyline and the direction I think is very entertaining. The animation is really good. Some of it I think for the time is very nice. The action can be tons of fun, and the locations I think are very creative. I think the film has a lot of good heart in the right places, and I really like the characters of Sinbad, Marina and Proteus. I like their interactions, I like their dynamic, and I really like the direction of how their characters are taken. Spike is a good boy, but the best character is hands down Eris. Oh boy. While she could definitely do with more screen time, she's a great villain. Her animation, her design, absolutely fantastic, but she's just so much fun to watch on screen. And she just has that fun, evil personality to her. The side characters are fun even if there's not a lot to them, and the music is excellent. The pacing though is good, but it's a wee bit too short, and some scenes do go by a little too quickly. But even so, it's a great movie, and it's definitely one that I always get a good kick out of. 10 out of 10. Number 13, Kung Fu Panda 3. Okay, yeah, it's probably a bit weird to have Kung Fu Panda 3 in my top 15, especially since I don't even think it reaches its full potential, and even from a non-biased perspective, I would probably have this below either Abominable or Over the Hedge. While the movie definitely does have problems, as Po has very little character development and growth, and how the movie heavily ignores the second film with the massacre playing so little impact on the story, but even so, Panda 3 is still a great movie with what it gets done right. Kai is a great villain with a great musical theme, presence, and an interesting connection to Oogway. The jokes are very funny, and the movie still has its heart in the right places. While could be better, Poe's relationship with Li Shan is very charming and is the heart of the movie, and the dynamic with Li and Mr. Ping is fantastic. The music in this film is the best of the franchise. The final battle with Po and Kai is peak cinema. The visuals are just gorgeous. It's definitely not the best of the four, and it really does suck that we were robbed of some amazing ideas from from the original script, such as more character development with Li Shan, Kai, and even the relationship of Poe and Tigress. Hell, in the original script, Tigress was originally gonna lose her eye and she was gonna have to wear an eye patch. But even if the film we got isn't as good as the first two movies, at least it is a lot better and actually feels like Kung Fu Panda than the fourth one. Despite the film's problems, there is a lot to appreciate, and I would say that it does have some of the best scenes in the franchise. At one point, it may have been the weakest Kung Fu Panda, but it still has some of that greatness that once made Kung Fu Panda special. 10 out of 10 from a biased perspective as a fan, but from a non-biased perspective, it would be an 8 out of 10. Number 12. Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. Now this is beautiful. Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron is such a lovely movie with a very emotionally impactful story that's built on a lot of good heart and an ending that's very bittersweet. The characters are wonderful and have great chemistry with one another, even though the villain is not really all that memorable to me. The animation of the film is beautiful, but the music for me personally is 50-50. The score by Hans Zimmer is excellent, but I'm personally not too keen on the songs by Bryan Adams. I don't know, personally, they're just not my kind of songs. Now, I definitely believe objectively from a non-biased perspective they're good songs, but for me personally, they're just not my type. And while I do love the chemistry of Spirit and Rain, their interactions are some of the best scenes in the movie. I actually wish we got more of them together. Overall though, Spirit is a beautiful movie and definitely one of the best movies from DreamWorks, and it would definitely be a little bit higher from a non-biased perspective. 10 out of 10. Number 11, Rise of the Guardians. Another animated movie with the word Guardians in the title that bombed at the box office, huh? Yeah, and for me, much like Legend of the Guardians, Rise of the Guardians is also excellent. This has always been one of my favourites from the studio. It has such a unique and creative storyline with not only amazing animation, but also action scenes that are absolutely amazing. The world building and the locations are so creative and are a lot of fun to be around. The characters are very well written and have great chemistry and interactions with one another. Jack Frost has a great character arc of wanting to learn more about himself, and Pitch Black is hands down one of the GOAT DreamWorks villains. I don't think he gets enough credit, honestly. He's so intimidating and has a very menacing presence throughout the movie. I also really like the character of Jamie, and I love his relationship with Jack Frost. I think that brings in a lot of the film's heart. The music of the film is awesome, especially the main theme. At times, the execution of the cliches and predictability can be a little bit lacking, particularly in the middle, and at times, the pacing can go by a little bit too fast. And it is such a shame that it never got to be a franchise. You can really tell it wanted to have shows, shorts and sequels to expand on not just the characters, but also the world of the movie. Even so though, it's a very creative movie and definitely worth checking out. 10 out of 10. Number 10, Flushed Away. Oh boy, here we go. We're getting into the top 10. Flushed Away is wonderful. The storyline is tons of fun with great humor, fantastic dialogue, and such fun action. The animation is very nice and very unique, I think, compared to the other works by Aardman. The chemistry with Roddy and Rita, while can be cliche at times, is really good. They have great banter and dialogue with one another. The Toad as a villain is absolutely hysterical. Whitey and Spike are just a joy to watch on screen.
Keep your legs straight when you hit the water! I kept my legs straight, Spike.
The film has such a funny cast of characters and the music is tons of fun, even though it does rely on a lot of pop songs, but somehow they actually really fit in the scenes they play in the movie. The film's pacing can be a little bit off at times, but despite that, it's a great movie and it's always been one of my personal favourites. It probably would be lower from a non-biased perspective, but personally, I still adore Flushed Away 19 years after its release. 10 out of 10. Number 9. Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. While I've still yet to see the newest one, I actually am a big fan of the Wallace and Gromit series, and Curse of the Were-Rabbit for me has to be the best Wallace and Gromit property. It has such an engaging story, hilarious comedy, and fun action. The animation is wonderful, and the characters are great. The dynamic of Wallace and Gromit has so much heart to it, and you can really tell that they care about one another. And I gotta admit, Victor Quartermain is quite a funny villain.
There's no nonsense with Victor Quartermain. What you see is what you get.
The music of the film is very catchy and the main theme is just an iconic classic. Like Flushed Away though, I do think the pacing can be a little bit on and off at times, but despite that, this is a great movie. And much like Madagascar, happy 20th anniversary to Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. It has aged very, and I mean very, very well. 10 out of 10. Number 8. Chicken Run. Chicken Run is cinema. This and Kubo and the Two Strings are my two favourite stop-motion movies. Chicken Run has such a brilliant story with great humour, great action, good heart, and tons of amazing character interactions. The characters of the film are fantastic. Rocky and Ginger are two great protagonists with great chemistry, and the other characters such as Babs,
Is Edwin off on holiday?
Bunty, Fowler, and everyone else including Nick and Fetcher are hysterical. The film has such a fantastic cast of characters where they just all connect to one another so damn well. Mrs. Tweedy is such a fun villain, and I even enjoy her relationship with Mr. Tweedy, even though she gives him terrible abuse.
Ooh, what kind of pies?
Apple. My favourite. Chicken pies, you great lummox.
The animation of the film is excellent and the music is so good. The plot twist in the middle with Rocky could use slightly better execution, but even so, this film rocks. A genuine classic and not only one of DreamWorks' best, but I am proud to call Chicken Run one of the best stop motion movies of all time. 10 out of 10. Number 7. The Wild Robot. Despite some pacing issues where it can drag a little bit and it is a little bit slow in a few areas, and I don't really find Vondra to be all that interesting or even that memorable, despite a good vocal performance, but other than that, this right here is one of the best films I've ever seen in my life. The Wild Robot for me has just gotten so much better, not only the more I think about it, but also the more I watch it. This is a beautiful movie with a lovely heartfelt story, gorgeous animation with amazing scenery, great action, and lovely character designs. The film's characters are great. Roz and Brightbill have such a heartfelt relationship and every scene with them is beautiful. And the character of Fink is great as well. Not only is he hilarious, but he's also a good support character and the other characters are excellent. The film's music is so good and the end credit song really does hit right in the feels. The film's ending is beautiful. It has so much heart, emotion, and richness to it where it makes the entire movie worth it. It does have some issues, but for the most part, The Wild Robot is a beautifully crafted film, and it just amazes me how in the same year after a disappointment like Kung Fu Panda 4, they go all out and create something as special as this. Beautiful movie. Just absolutely beautiful. 10 out of 10. Number 6. Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish. I think pretty much almost everyone has talked about how good Puss in Boots 2 is. I do have some issues. I do feel the pacing is a little bit slow at times, especially in the first act, and I do wish we had a bit more screen time of Death. I mean, he's just so good. But despite my issues, this movie is a masterpiece. The storyline is so mature, incredibly thought-provoking, engaging, it's got tons and tons of heart to it and emotional weight. It's really funny in places, and the animation is absolutely amazing. It is a different style for sure, but it's not jarringly different, thankfully, and it just looks so good in this film. The voice performances are brilliant and the characters are absolutely fantastic. Puss and Kitty have fantastic character arcs, Perito is a good boy, and the panic attack scene is god tier cinema. Goldilocks and the Three Bears are fun characters and they do bring in some of the film's heart. While personally I don't find Jack Horner to be as interesting as the rest, he's still a fun villain, but Death is hands down the best villain that DreamWorks have ever created, period. This guy is a badass and he is absolutely terrifying throughout the movie. His dynamic with Puss, his goal, and his presence is absolutely phenomenal. The music is amazing and perfectly fits in the tone of the movie, and the overall film is just fantastic. This film right here for me is the best film of the 2020s decade for me and one of my favourite movies of all time. From a non-biased perspective, I would absolutely have this in the top 3 of my ranking, but even from a biased perspective, I absolutely adore this one and it's gotten so much better for me with both over time and on every viewing. 10 out of 10. Number 5. Kung Fu Panda. The first Kung Fu Panda is such a classic. It takes such a cliche and predictable story but executes it in such a fantastic and unique way, with very mature and well thought out themes with some fantastic and very funny jokes. Po is such an engaging character arc throughout the movie, and he's quite possibly one of the most relatable fictional characters out there. Shifu is such a well thought out arc, and his dynamic with the other characters is excellent. The Furious Five are fantastic, especially Tigress, who has some very good development in the film, with how she feels about Po being the Dragon Warrior. Oogway is a very good character too, who offers some lovely lines of dialogue. Mr. Ping is wonderful, and his scenes with Po are very, very heartwarming. While I do wish Tai Lung had more screen time, I still think he's a very solid villain, and his dynamic with Shifu is peak. The animation has aged very well, with some amazing fight scenes. The music by Hans Zimmer and John Powell is absolutely beautiful, and some scenes in the film are genuinely just so heartwarming and very, very touching. Kung Fu Panda 1 is a brilliant movie and will forever remain an absolute classic. 10 out of 10. Number 4. How to Train Your Dragon. The beginning of a very special franchise for me. How to Train Your Dragon is a wonderful movie. Much like Kung Fu Panda, it takes a very cliche storyline, but executes it brilliantly. The storyline is very engaging and very well thought out. Hiccup is a fantastic protagonist with a very good character arc in the film of trying to prove himself, and his friendship with Toothless is excellent. Toothless is such a lovable character and hands down my favourite fictional character of all time. It's very compelling seeing a dragon like Toothless learn to develop a friendship with a human like Hiccup. The dragons are very cool, and they're also unique from one another with very creative designs. Astrid is excellent, and her relationship with Hiccup is very nice, even if it is quite cliche with how it goes. But personally, I think it works. Galber is such a funny character with a fun dynamic with the rest of the cast, and Stoic is brilliant. And his scenes with Hiccup are so good. They may be cliche on paper, but they're just so well executed and have so much emotion to them. The gang are fun characters, even though there's not much to them in this film, but they're still good. The animation's a little bit dated in a few shots, but for the most part, it still looks absolutely amazing. The action is fantastic, but the flying sequences are amazing, especially the test flight scene when Hiccup flies with Toothless for the first time. And the music by John Powell is absolutely amazing. While I may not think it's the best in the trilogy, that doesn't mean anything against this film. I just believe the trilogy as a whole got better and better with each movie, even if one or two things are handled better in one movie than the other. Even with that said though, I still think How to Train Your Dragon 1 is an absolute classic, and I still love it to bits. Amazing movie and an excellent start to a very special franchise. 10 out of 10. Number 3. How to Train Your Dragon 2. What a brilliant sequel. Despite some issues with Toothless kinda being sidelined, I do believe Shea Frillis made a very good point about that in his analysis of the film, and Drago Bloodfist is a very lackluster villain, I think. He has a great design, and Digimon Hanzo does a brilliant voice performance, but other than that, there's just nothing to the character. But other than those issues, this is a fantastic film. The storyline is excellent. It's very engaging with a lot of impactful moments, especially when you're watching it for the first time, and the world building is excellent. Hiccup's character development is even better in this film than it was in the first one, and despite what I said about Toothless earlier, Toothless is still wonderful, and his friendship with Hiccup is still great in this movie. Valka is a great new addition to the saga, and her relationship with Hiccup is really nice, and her scenes with Stoic bring in a lot of the movie's heart, especially the dancing and the dreaming song. The death of Stoic is very powerful, which makes this movie the darkest in the trilogy, and it perfectly sets up Hiccup's character arc and development in the third film. I'd say Astrid in this movie has the same amount to do that Tigress does in Kung Fu Panda 3. She is still very good in this movie. Her scenes with Hiccup are still great, and it's nice to see a little bit more of her leadership skills when she's with the rest of the gang. The rest of the gang are good in this movie, even if it is quite unhinged to see Snotlout and Fishlegs simp over Ruffnut, and for Ruffnut to simp over Eret for literally no reason at all, let's be real. Eret is another excellent addition to the saga and has a very good character arc of going from a dragon hunter to a hero. The dragons are awesome, and the new dragon dragons we meet in the movie are very, very cool, especially Valka's dragon Cloud Jumper. The animation is absolutely beautiful and it's aged very well. There's some beautiful landscape shots and the action scenes are brilliant. The music by John Powell is once again absolutely fantastic, especially in the third act. That's where the music is just at its peak for me. I may have more issues with this one now than I used to. The film could definitely use some adjustments and a little bit of tweaking, but despite that, I still think it's an amazing movie with a lot to love and a great continuation of the first movie. 10 out of 10. Number 2, a tie with Kung Fu Panda 2 and How to Train Your Dragon 3 The Hidden World. Okay, so I kinda changed my mind a little bit on where I would place these two. Originally, Panda 2 would have been at second place for me and Dragon 3 would have been at first place. But honestly, the more I think about it and the more I see these two, I can't help but feel they're both a tie. I genuinely feel that both Kung Fu Panda 2 and How to Train Your Dragon 3 are on par with one another, and even from a non-biased perspective, I genuinely believe that both movies are just going to get better and better as the years go on. They both have very rich, mature and emotionally impactful storytelling, with Panda 2 talking about genocide, identity and learning about where you come from, Dragon 3 talking about growing up, love, letting go and independence. They both have absolutely amazing visuals with amazing locations, landscapes and absolutely fantastic action scenes. They both have fantastic music by Hans Zimmer and John Powell. Both Poe and Hiccup are at their peak in these movies, with Poe learning more about his origins and learning to accept that the past doesn't define who he is today, and Hiccup dealing with the responsibilities of being the chief of Berk and having to make tough decisions, especially in the end of the film when he learns to let go and say goodbye to his best friend Toothless. Astrid and Tigress are amazing in these. Not only do they kick a lot of ass, but they have amazing chemistry with the main character. The relationship with Poe and Tigress is lovely and has a lot of heart to it, and the relationship with Hiccup and Astrid is wrapped up in such a beautiful way. Toothless has some excellent development with forming a new relationship and deciding what he wants out of life. The relationship with Toothless and the Light Fury is very sweet, and the Light Fury is an adorable addition to the saga. And the rest of the dragons are all excellent. The rest of the Furious Five are at their peak in this one, I'd say, as this is their most involvement with the story. Shifu is still awesome, even though his role is a lot more reduced in this one compared to number 1. Mr. Ping is wonderful once again, and his scenes with Poe, especially at the end, are absolutely phenomenal. Even the new characters such as the Soothsayer and the Masters are very nice additions too. Hiccup's gang are most involved here too. Valka has some very nice moments with Hiccup in this film, and I really like her scenes with Astrid. And while it is definitely very nice to see the gang all together in this one, especially in the action scenes, Snotlout though is definitely at his worst here. I mean, he's always been unhinged, but this is him at his dumbest. Honestly, he is the exact same character in almost every movie, short and TV show. But hey, he's still a good fighter, so that's something at least. Lord Shen is the GOAT Kung Fu Panda villain. He has a fantastic dynamic with Poe and perfectly ties into not just Poe, but also the themes of the movie story. He's basically a darker mirror of Poe. He is just evil. While I do believe these two to be the best of their franchises, and while I still do absolutely adore them, I can't deny I do have some issues. For starters, while still a very funny movie, I don't think Kung Fu Panda 2 is quite as funny as the first one. I just feel it doesn't quite have the same wit that the first movie had, and to be honest, I think the film deserved to be longer than just 90 minutes. While Snotlout is definitely at his worst here, I do believe there are some things that hold Grimmel back. He's definitely a fun villain. His dynamic with Hiccup is really good, his introduction to the plot is really good, and his first encounter with Hiccup is just God tier. He's got a fun personality, and F. Murray Abraham does indeed deliver a brilliant performance, but his design is just really weird. To be honest, he looks more like a Shrek villain, and I do wish we got a flashback of how he killed the Night Furies. He does explain his backstory in a decent way, but I wish we got a flashback, as it would have had a big impact on the franchise, but it also would have helped further develop his character, and it would even tie into Toothless. I mean, Grimmel is the Night Fury killer. I mean, come on. I think having his flashback shown would have been excellent. But then again, apart from the franchise's best villain, Vigo Grimborn in Race to the Edge, oh my god, he is absolutely fantastic. How to Train Your Dragon was definitely not as good as Kung Fu Panda when it came to the villains. for the most part. But then again, I do feel a lot of characters in the saga could have used a few adjustments. I mean, I genuinely do believe Race to the Edge had better side characters and did handle a few aspects than the trilogy did. But despite those issues, both of these movies are amazing. Not only do I believe them to be the peak of their sagas, they both have fantastic storytelling with peak character development for the main character, and they have a lot of very impactful moments. Kung Fu Panda 2's ending is very heartwarming, and you really do feel the bond with Po and all the other characters, and How to Train Your Dragon 3's ending is a beautiful send-off to the franchise and still remains to this day my favourite scene in movie history. I genuinely can't decide which one I like more. 20 out of 20. See what I did there? Huh? Okay, that was kind of stupid, but both of them are 10 out of 10s from me. As for the live action, all I can say is there's not a chance of it topping the original saga. I definitely have hope it'll be a fun time, and it does look like a pretty good film, but it has no chance of topping the animation. But hey ho, we'll just have to wait and see. And Kung Fu Panda 5, no comment. I just hope it's better than 4.
Now, when it comes to the top 2, I'm going to be honest, it is quite interchangeable, but when it comes to the number 1 spot, this right here is, in all honesty, the only movie that I would genuinely call cinematic perfection. And that's because it does its job more than correctly and is a very, and I mean very, very well made movie. The story, the characters, the visuals, the music, everything about it is just perfection in my book. And so, here comes the number 1 spot. My number 1 favourite DreamWorks movie.
Number 1, Shrek 2. Honestly, Shrek 2 has me speechless. This is a masterpiece. God tier cinema. The storytelling is absolute perfection. The perfect continuation of the first Shrek. The relationships are amazing. Shrek and Fiona have great chemistry in this movie, but they also have great character arcs in the film. Fiona may be slightly reduced in this one, but I'd still say she has a fairly big role, as she is the one that Shrek wants to make happy. And she is the one that does struggle accepting her quote-unquote new husband. Shrek has an excellent character arc of trying to make Fiona happy, but also trying to fit in with Fiona's family. Fiona's parents are great characters, and man, the direction and the character arc of King Harold is just tons and tons of fun. Donkey is still absolutely hilarious, and his dynamic with Shrek is even better in this one than it was in the first movie. Seeing them embrace their new looks is a very creative choice, I feel, and I think it really works for the movie's plot. Shrek 2 also introduces my favourite character in Shrek history, Puss in Boots. He is fantastic in this movie. His arc, his dynamic with Shrek and Donkey, his performance by Antonio Banderas is just excellent. He's just such a great character. Prince Charming is a fun side villain, and at times he's actually quite hilarious. But the fairy godmother is a perfect villain. She is absolutely amazing in this movie. Her plan is truly diabolical, and what she does in the film is just pure evil. Her dynamic with the cast is excellent, and her cover of I Need a Hero is just perfection. She also brings in my favourite line of dialogue in the entirety of the Shrek saga.
Alright, look, lady.
Don't you point those dirty green sausages at me!
The action in the film is nothing short of just tons and tons of fun. The animation is still absolutely amazing, even to this day, 21 years later. The voice performances are brilliant, and the music of the movie is just God tier. The film's humour for me is just hysterical. This for me is, in all honesty, the funniest movie ever made. Every joke just lands, and I always laugh my ass off whenever I watch the movie. And it's not just the jokes, but the film itself always brings a massive smile to my face. There's not really much else for me to say other than it's just a masterpiece. The storytelling, the characters, the music, the visuals, the action, the jokes, everything about this movie just always makes me happy and always puts me in good form. Even when I talk about it, think about it, and even when I just watch a clip of the movie, it always brings a smile to my face. I am proud to call Shrek 2 not only my favourite Shrek movie, my favourite sequel ever made, my favourite movie of all time, and I truly believe that Shrek 2 is the greatest DreamWorks movie of all time. 10 out of 10.
And there you have it, folks. That right there is my ranking for DreamWorks. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I'm very proud of the video that I've made, and I hope you guys enjoyed my ranking. I know you guys will probably disagree with a few of the placements, and that's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to hearing more of your points and thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what your ranking is in the comment section below as well. Stay tuned for future videos, and until then, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everyone, and skidoosh. And also, here's a little gag reel too. I'm sending you this as a memory. Okay, do you... Alright, okay. Oh god. Do you think that Trolls Band Together could be as good as Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish? You okay, Dave? You okay? You okay?
Yeah. God. Okay.
Hey, Tyke, do you think Trolls Band Together could... Okay.
Okay. It's really better that we're laughing. Sudden laugh will be better.
Yeah, true.
Okay, I can just hold it.
Alright. Alright, okay.
What?
Tyke, do you think Trolls Band Together could actually be... Hey Tyke, do you think Trolls Band Together could actually be on the same level as Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish? You okay there?
Yeah.
Tyke, what do you think the chances are of Trolls Band Together being as good as Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish? You okay there? You okay?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Fuck no.
Tyke, what do you think the chances are of Trolls 3 Band Together being on the same level as Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish? You okay?
Yeah. It's absolutely... fuck.
Tyke, what do you think the chances are of Trolls 3 Band Together being as good as Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish? You okay? Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Fuck no. Fuck no. No.
Okay.